And we're live from the Windsor Regional Hospital Cancer Center with a very important question for all of you at home and for our guests tonight. We're asking the question, how did cancer change you? So we're going to talk about the emotional, the physical, the spiritual, all the different ways that cancer can change somebody, both right from the time of diagnosis, right through the treatment, and even afterwards. So are you guys ready?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. Welcome everyone to Cancer Center Live. I'm Allison Johnson, Manager of Communications here at Windsor Regional Hospital, and I want to introduce you to our guests, Jeff and Steve right now. Welcome, guys.
Well, thank you, Allison. Thank you for having me here. My name is Jeff Casey. You might know me as the Snapped guy. I own Snapped Windsor. I was diagnosed with cancer about 9.5 years ago with follicular non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I went through a round of what they call CHOP-R. So I had 6 treatments of that, and then followed by, I think it was 2 years of Rituxan. I went through all the ups and downs that you can probably think of, and maybe a lot of people out there have gone through. I'm happy to be here and answer any questions that anyone has, maybe about something that you're going through, or maybe a loved one or a friend. Maybe share my perspective on it, how I dealt with something, or maybe something that you could think of to, make that situation go a little bit easier for someone. So yeah, please send us your questions.
Ask away. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And Steve.
And I'm Steve Brennan. I'm a social worker by profession right now, Senior Director for the Hospice of Windsor in Essex County, and been involved for the last 35 years with cancer. So as Jeff mentioned, any questions I'd be open to, and have actually created a group that we're going to be talking about in terms of assisting people to understand that process.
And welcome again to all of you. We're going to get right into this conversation, but please feel free to jump in and join us whenever you like. Either send us a little thumbs up, throw some hearts out there, or post your thoughts and questions, and we'll include them in tonight's discussion. Jeff, I want to start with you. I want to set this conversation up a bit with something that you posted on Facebook earlier today. You said, "My wife and I learned a lot about the journey of cancer diagnosis after dealing with it. And this is truly something that very much gets ignored, but is extremely important to talk about." So why? Why is it important to talk about, and why do you think it gets ignored?
It's a very big question, and it would take probably a lot of different questions and answers and stories to kind of get to the root of any of that. But based on kind of my experience and what I learned afterwards was that, let's start kind of from the beginning. When I was diagnosed, it was a pretty big thing to handle. I was kind of guns a-blazing. I wasn't taking no for answers. I wasn't taking yes for answers. If somebody told me no, then I'd say, okay, well then I'm going to go there, or no, you have to do better. If it was yes, okay, great, thank you, and I'm going to go ask that person what they think. I became a really strong advocate for myself. And going through this, my wife and I kind of made a promise to each other that we would be 100% honest with what was going on. And what that turned out to be afterwards was more me being honest about maybe my physical pain or some worries I had or emotions that I was feeling. And my wife kind of went into more of a protective mode, which I didn't really see at the time. I think we were both on the same page that we had to do everything possible to make sure that I survived, and that was our focus. We had a newborn baby. I was diagnosed the day after my daughter was born, and I'm going to say that was one of the first times I've actually been able to say that without crying a little bit. It was a crazy time.
Wow.
Yes, the morning after was when I got my actual diagnosis. But it seems like such a terrible time, but what a little angel we had. She was a godsend for us. A lot of focus, a lot of love. It'll be a couple of years before she really realizes the impact that she had on us. I mean, we love her lots every day, but I think really to kind of, what you said there was, or I guess what I said earlier, is really us communicating to make sure that we both understood what was going on. And it wasn't until after the fact that I really realized that she was taking a huge brunt of everything, and really, like, getting up every night with Isabella, and mitigating all the little problems of life, where I was upstairs sleeping, or whether in the afternoon, or I was up at 4 a.m. because I couldn't sleep, and just the whole range of things.
And we started out by talking about, why it's important to talk about this journey and what it's like. And then you mentioned that you had your daughter at the same time, and that's a learning curve in itself. But that's something that you can find lots of books about, right? You can find lots of people talking about what it's like when you have a newborn baby. But this is a bit of a different journey that you guys were taking at the same time. We're calling tonight's show Cancer and the New You. How are you, Jeff Casey, today different than you would have been, do you think, without that journey?
Well, I had a lot more hair before.
Is that before the daughter or before the diagnosis?
Yeah, exactly, right? I think it was more of a timing issue. I think it was going anyways, and with the chemo, I had to shave my head, and that's one of my jokes that I say, I suppose, is I've been there and lost the hair.
And that's the physical.
Yeah, that's one of the physical things for sure. But I guess. Sorry, what was the question again?
How are you different? How is Jeff Casey today different than perhaps you would have been without that?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that today actually, and a couple things I suppose is I find that I try to enjoy life a lot more. Life is all about experiences. I've got some good friends and family members, and I think we all kind of understand that to a certain degree of you got to get out there and enjoy things. One of the things that I hung my hat on going through all the chemo and all the treatments and everything was life is all about attitude and having the right attitude. And the main saying in the poem written by Charles Swindoll called Attitude is life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. So post chemo and whatnot, I had a lot of fears at the beginning. I had a lot of emotions. There was a lot of things that I would still have a hard time talking about. But after going through the lifestyle change program with Steve here, really helped me put it all into perspective. And I came out, my wife and I both, ready to live life and pursue the things that make you happy, at full throttle.
And I want to talk a little bit more about that and about the model that you mentioned with Steve. First, I want to bring in a comment from Andrea Bodcon. She says, Andrea has commented before, and she says, your life changes in many ways with and after cancer. I honestly dislike the term new normal because there's nothing normal about cancer or the side effects. Through the last 8 years, what I have learned is to appreciate everything, no more getting hung up on irritants, brush them away, face every day, everyone with love, and enjoy the good days.
I fully agree with that. I read that comment earlier, and again, I fully agree with it. And there's lots of things that kind of create your new normals. What I was thinking, when my daughter was born, that was a new normal. When my son was born, that was a new normal. 1 kid, 2 kid, now you're this busy, that busy. That's everything kind of changes. I think one of the reasons that term helps me is to put into perspective how I lived before and now how I'm living now, and what I've learned and how I've grown in dealing with it. And it truly was a positive experience for me. But again, I agree with your statement. It is whatever you believe it is. And
if I can jump in, one of the things with the word normal, when you were talking about the day after was when you got diagnosed, but everything that happened prior to that would have been the normal life that was going on. Even to have a child, go through the pregnancy that you and your wife, and then you had an added experience, an added episode of cancer, and then you had a new normal. So it's that piece in between that I hear you saying was that new piece. And
I will introduce this model now because we do keep referring to it. But Jeff, when I was talking to you initially and we were kind of just talking about the experience in general and how it changed you, and you mentioned that there was a model that you had taken a course with Steve that kind of helped you put it into perspective. It's called the pool model, and we're going to post that so that people can see. I have a really high-tech version of it right here. I'll hold it up really close for a second, but check under the post.
It's slightly analog, but there's so much depth to it that it's unbelievable.
I'm going to hand it over to you, Steve, and maybe you can explain what is going on here, what we're looking at. Okay,
basically, it's a swimming pool, and one of the reasons that we used a swimming pool is because everyone has that experience. So one of the first questions we ask, has anybody ever not been in a pool? Nobody usually says no. So it's an easy place to identify, and it's a visual. And then there are
So we'll just describe it for the people who can't see it. There's a stick figure who is going...
Which is my extent of art.
A person labeled normal, going through with the symptoms, a patient with the symptoms, kind of going through the testing, the treatment, and I'm going through this quickly because I know you're going to get more in depth with it here, but then the treatment's kind of behind them, they're diagnosed, they're treated, and then it's a new normal at the end.
And I think the most important piece is to realize, and you've said it, is that you have a history, you have a life leading into this, and that's a life that was your normal life. And usually when you are then going through the diagnosis, going through all the treatment or the assessment phase, it's something you have to adapt to, and what we talk about is you take on the patient role. You don't stop being the person. You don't stop being who you were, but we take on a patient role that we have known, and we adapt to allow the tests to happen.
Right, and one of the things that this really put into perspective for me was, like, I remember another aspect of it being this massive chain link fence around it that, you know, only a person with the symptoms can enter through the gate into the pool area. And it's kind of from there that you're on your own, and your family members are kind of at the fence. They want to help you, they want to be beside you, but really you kind of enter something like this on your own. In a sense, it's not, you're literally not by yourself, but going through.
You are the only one that can go through the test.
Right, you're the only one that can go through the test. You're the only one that can decide to climb the ladder, to get to see the doctor, to get the diagnosis, and you're the only one where the doctor can push you off the end of the diving board, throw you into the pool of dealing with actual diagnosis.
And that doesn't mean that your loved ones and your family aren't going through it. They're going through it in a different way.
Yes.
We refer to it as they're on the deck.
Yes.
Trying to throw you that rope.
The rope, the life that they bring you over, cheering you on, holding you when you can't go through it. And sometimes you have to do that yourself if you're just alone. So it provides a communication for how you understand what's going on inside you, but how you can talk to each other as well.
To further to that is the 4 quadrants that we talked about, whereas you have to have there's essentially 4 quadrants that you have to deal with. There's the mental, the physical, the emotional, and the psychological. And then outside of that was the spiritual, that, you know, whatever role it played for you. So in my experience, how I managed through that was focusing on the mental and the physical, where I was making the decisions to go do this, to go do that, you know, trying to make myself healthy. But a lot of the psychological aspects and emotional aspects kind of got buried. And it wasn't until I was kind of complete and got my NED, no evidence of disease, that everything kind of really, like a tidal wave, barreling over me, really happened. And it is different for everyone, right? I mean, that spiritual role, for instance, can take a huge role in for some people, or not at all. Or the physical aspect is significant because of whatever type of disease they have. I mean, so it's...
You're doing a great job.
Well,
he's doing a great job.
I learned a lot. My wife learned a lot, and I've told a lot of people about this, because I've done like friend counseling, if you will, and I mean this meant so much to me afterwards. I've recommended to people that they take it if they can handle something or some type of support to get in there while they're in treatment, or, you know, if they're in the watch and wait. There's so many different types and styles of all this, but
why was it important? Because I know that in our conversation you really did focus on this, to kind of have a framework to put in some kind of perspective of what you were going through. How did that help? And what about for other people to understand as well?
I think that's hard for me to answer. Maybe it's just how my brain works. I kind of need a structure to something. I need it to be organized. That's kind of how I attacked cancer. I had my cancer table. I had my 4-month calendar. I had a schedule of drugs. I had it all very well organized and documented, binders and highlighters and all that stuff. So for this to kind of come around, and I can kind of maybe even compartmentalize a lot of these different aspects. But the in-depth part of that is really helping me understand not only what I'm going through, but what my mom was going through, what my wife was going through, and the kind of the impacts that it had, right? I mean, it wasn't until after that my wife told me, I don't know if I've actually even publicly said this, but she told me that as soon as I told her that I had cancer, that she went into, I've got to prepare for him not to be around. Like, he's dead. So I gotta move on. Like, and it's not, it wasn't like I'm moving on. It was, okay, well, that's now a whole nother compartment I have to start dealing with of him not being around. So and I never thought like that. Like, I don't think I ever thought I'm gonna die. Like, I just kind of went into the mode of I'm not gonna die.
Survival.
Yeah.
And how does this help other people?
Exactly, picking up from what Jeff said, one of the things it does is that if you're in that compartment, if you're only at that one stage, you see that there's more to come. You see that there is another way you can go, an ending. And you also, as a group, you meet people who are at the different stages. So, and it's very much talking to each other, which was something a long time ago people were encouraged not to do. And now they're encouraged to, yes, let's share that. I think you mentioned normal as being a word that some people do not like. Other people don't like the word journey. It's, it's not a word that, this is not a journey, this is much more than that. Yeah. And so it assists people to know, yes, you're right. It's an ongoing piece of your life. And not to trivialize what's going on. For sure. It's really important to understand. And you mentioned your 4-month project. Well, the visual is, here's the path. Yeah. This is what you're going to go through, and we can talk about it.
And everyone deals with it different. Yeah. Right? So some people don't like journey, some people don't like battle, some people don't like fight, like all these different terms. But it's let anyone that's going through it, let them own it themselves, however they see it.
So welcome to communication.
You'll never find a word that pleases you. I want to bring some other voices into this discussion. Again, this model is posted. If you have any specific questions about the model, please feel free to jump in. I put all these ones together because they kind of sounded like people who may be closer to the beginning of this, just maybe getting that diagnosis. But Kristen says, once you get diagnosed, start counseling now because you are about to take the worst ride of your life. So some advice for people just starting the journey. And Linda Turner Proctor says, get a team ready for a bumpy ride. They will be there with you on board to get you through this journey. And Carolyn says, enlist help from your friends early. And then finally, Jackie Nelson said, I found comfort in knowledge. The more that I educated myself on cancer, the more that I felt prepared to face it. So thank you, everyone, for jumping in there with those thoughts. But it sounds a lot like planning, like kind of at the beginning.
Can I answer all of those?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in first. Do it. I was going to say all 4 of them speak to your support system. And in the pool, those are the ones that are on the deck. That's who can walk alongside of you. And nowadays, one of the key ones is the internet. One of the key ones is where you get the information, and be careful where you get the information. Yes.
And these guys are on the deck with you tonight.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's that helping you. And I love the fact that they're saying reach out early, connect early, and it's available early.
Do you mind?
Yeah. No.
And actually, I think I read a few of these early too. Start counseling now because you're about to. When my first experience walking into this cancer center was walking right into a support worker's office. And I was not ready for that. And I didn't want it. And I was very against it. And I said, no, I don't want to be here. I'm leaving. I got to go see my doctor because I don't even have like a set diagnosis. I don't even know what medication I'm taking. I can't even talk to you right now, so thank you, but bye. And that was it. So, however, like a couple, maybe a month or so later is when I did actually start to see a support worker. And, you know, her and I went through quite a few conversations. There's a couple things that she wanted to try that I didn't, so I said no. And there's a couple things that we really did explore and really helped me. But be open to it. I think it is something that is very valuable. There's something that happens as soon as you are diagnosed with cancer, or you have an immediate bond with somebody that's kind of already gone through it. There is a club, and it's you immediately have some type of understanding of what that person's going through or what they went through, and so you have that mutual love, respect for that person. Get your team ready for a bumpy ride. Get your friends together. And I think there was more to that comment, even like some people.
You'll know who.
Sometimes what you'll find is, or what I found was, and I think the person that made this comment experienced the same thing, is that some friends kind of disappear. You thought they were your good friend, but now all of a sudden they're not around. And it took me a long time not to take that personally, and to come full circle in actually understanding that it was something that maybe they couldn't deal with. Or they didn't know how to deal with it. And so I don't fault them anymore. I've forgiven them. I've never had conversations with certain people either. I've never actually addressed it, but it did happen, and I think I reacted in a negative sense. But I've come around internally and forgiven them and kind of blame myself for me trying to blame them for something, maybe because I didn't understand what they didn't understand. And then I also had other friends that kind of stepped up like crazy without asking. And you know, there's one friend, and I thank him all the time for this because it was such a small thing, but it meant so much. Is he just shoveled my driveway, like just showed up on a snowy day, went out to shovel, and it was done. It was ridiculously simple, but because that would have, I wanted to do it, but it would have burned me for the day. I would have been done because of like I was like 2 days out of my chemo treatment or whatever. But and kind of what you just said there about comfort and knowledge. But be careful where you get it. I made the mistake very early. I had follicular non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in my tonsils. I went online and I searched throat cancer. If you look up throat cancer, you're not going to feel very good about your chances of living, I suppose. Especially if you're looking in the wrong place, not understanding all the different elements to it. So I made that mistake early and learned a harsh lesson. And then what I did is I asked my oncologist, what should I read? Where should I read it? I avoided the online chat rooms. And I didn't go to the online chat rooms. I didn't have a good experience there either, and I saw some things that I don't think were positive to the experience.
And when you do get that information, there's no place at that moment to go and check it out or corroborate or talk to somebody.
One of the things that hospice now has, if I can just add to that, is we have a full library, we have librarians that are there, and we have all the information for online resources. So if somebody gets a diagnosis, and that's key for hospice, is we're involved right from the very beginning. And I know the Cancer Center has the same in terms of the library, but you can contact hospice, they will help you research it.
Resources that you can trust.
Yes, and on what online chat rooms might be good.
Good point.
We have a question for Jeff. Thanks to whoever added this one. How do you feel about being identified as a cancer patient?
Well, I guess the good news is now I'm not a cancer patient. But
does that term kind of bring
when I was in treatment, I did not like it. I was very self-conscious, walking in public, thinking that people were looking at me. So I knew, like, I didn't have any eyebrows, I didn't have any hair on my face, obviously didn't have any in my head, and I felt very self-conscious about it, and it wasn't something that I could control. It was, I always felt as though people were looking at me like, wow, that guy's so young, and I often had my daughter with me, and I often wondered if people were looking, like, thinking, oh my God, that's a young dad that's gonna die. Like that was kind of me thinking about what other people thought, and it was kind of weird. And even now, being called a cancer survivor, I don't know, with that, I think comes, I personally take it with, I think, a lot of pressure, which may seem weird, but I think there's something to be said for paying it back or paying it forward. Which is one of the reasons why I'm sitting here, to be that guy.
And it's very generous, and I'm sure it's not something that you maybe want to talk about.
No, it's a little bit harder, I suppose. But I feel as though I have to. Like, and even sometimes I do struggle when I talk to larger groups, or when I talk about emotional things, maybe depending on the mindset I'm in that day. But I do see it as a very important thing of paying it forward and educating people, or talking about my experience, because I think there's a lot to learn and a lot of hope that I can provide to people. I had a good experience. I survived.
A question I put to you, or a challenge I put to you, and I think it's in the wording, because if I was seeing you, I'd say you're a person who has cancer in your background. You're a person who is now a survivor of cancer,
Yep.
but you're not a cancer survivor, because that's the new normal. You're a person again, and it's really about claiming back the right to be a person.
Yeah.
It's hard during the treatments, but now, and you have a phenomenal amount of experience that you could share, but are you sharing it as a person who is a survivor?
That's a hard thing to accept.
Exactly.
A really hard thing to accept, and I would say I'm still not there. But that is something that I hadn't really thought of it like that, but I would say that is something that I would like to get to, in the sense that, like, I think about it every day.
Yeah.
I mean, and mostly in a positive sense, but there are days, right, where things creep in that you can't control, I suppose. And I guess you still kind of even look forward to the day that doesn't creep in anymore.
Are you a cancer survivor who owns Snap? Are you a
I'm
person
yeah, I'm a person.
But I think, are you like suggesting that there's a point then where it no longer becomes part of who you are? Like, that cancer is so far away from who you are. But
that's a challenge. There's a point, and in my experience is, there's a point where you receive the diagnosis. The moment you are told, this is what you have, and it just confirms everything you've been worried about. But does it change who you are? Yes. That diagnosis. And then you spend, and it's different for everyone, how long does it take to get that as part of your history? Because you said, Ned?
Ned. Mine was Ned. No evidence of disease. From Dr. Hammy.
Whatever that means.
Well, that was my it was my PET scan, and my PET scan showed no evidence of disease. That's
you're
the
Ned. Not Ned. You're Ned.
I'm Ned. Yes, I'm Ned. Well, the other thing is, I think I've kind of chosen to live it, in that I'm here today, for instance, and I speak to it, and I want to be an ambassador of hope, and I want to, help create more opportunities for people, I suppose, and
the fear of it coming back.
Yeah. It's hard not to have that fear. It's there.
I want to bring Francesco into this discussion. He shared his story online. He says, my story on cancer, it changed my outlook on life. Every day is a good day, rain, snow, or sun. Every day that I wake up is a great day. 2010, I was told I had stage 3 rectal cancer, and that was a blow to me because I had no clue. But after 23 burn my buttocks radiation treatments, surgery, colostomy for life, 2 months of chemo pills, and 8 months of recovery, the medical team is the best on the planet, and they became true friends. I took what was coming and prayed and didn't ask why me, and today I can do almost everything I did before. I was told I had a 5-year window, and now I'm on 7 years and feel awesome, other than the old age stuff. Cancer is at bay, and if it comes back, I will fight with new technology and meds. If you are fighting, be strong, never give in, always believe, and keep your faith. So thank you for adding that to the discussion.
Awesome.
Yes.
Congratulations. Beautiful. For sure. And it sounds like faith was an important part of this story. And you mentioned sometimes that changes throughout the stages.
Another word for faith, hope. Being able to hope that this is where I'm going to end up. And oftentimes for the person with the illness, that's what they're carrying the most of. The caregiver is carrying that whole, how do I help? shovel snow? What do I do to take care of things? But the faith can happen in many different ways in supporting them. So
it all gets challenged. Everything.
A comment from Diane, I think, adds to what you're saying. I find giving back to those who are now battling helps me find purpose in it all. And I have to say that we've been doing this webcast for 2 years now, and every time we have a new topic and we have to approach new people and ask them to come share their stories, I always feel a little bit nervous inside, because I am asking a lot of the people who sit in this chair to share very personal experiences, and nobody has ever said no to me. So thank you, and thank you everyone else who's come. And they always say the same thing, well, if it can help somebody else.
Yeah.
So,
and help move things forward in the whole cancer world, so to speak. Because I think even the bigger picture is extremely important.
Absolutely. A comment from one of our participants tonight: the new normal is a difficult concept. I know that I'm not the same person I was prior to cancer, good or bad. I was very happy and enjoying life prior, and am finally able to find joy again and attempt to keep the fear at bay. It sounds kind of like a common theme.
Yep.
When whoever it is mentions it's a difficult concept, a good place to start is with who you were, plus what you've experienced. And then, as you just said, you're still incorporating that. You're still trying to put those pieces together. So new normal is the plus sign, whatever that plus sign is going to equal. And don't forget who you were.
And the one comment, I think, from Francesco, who said, if I have to go through this again, so there's a sense that I'm going to take that new normal and start again, but different than the normal before. And I know you can see it below. There's stick people here, and they look the same at the end as they did at the beginning. But I think the idea is you're really not. A comment from Linda Brown. I like this one. She says, face it head on like a boss. Own it, get the treatment, and get on with the life you were given to live. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Just do it! Exclamation point. And I smiled when I read this because I don't know Linda, but I feel like I do. I feel like these are characteristics that she would bring to many different situations.
Yep, love it.
And does that happen where some of the qualities that you already have are strengthened throughout this process?
Absolutely. And Jeff mentioned that you may have friends that step up and you may have friends that go away. That's that outward communication, but inwardly you may have strengths that you never knew you had that could become stronger and stronger and stronger. And then there may be some that recede because, they're not needed any longer. They don't help. So it's change. It's all about that change.
Adapting.
Are we open to that change? And talking about it, figuring it out.
Can you think of anything of your own qualities that you noticed during this experience that you didn't necessarily know you had before?
I think some of the traits that I had were strengthened. I mean, I tell you, I kind of organized things, and that was how I approached it. And I didn't realize I had the pain tolerance that I did, I suppose. And even being a little bit brave, I mean, I didn't have to go into anything too crazy, but just a couple surgeries and a lot of spinal taps and bone marrow aspiration. I mean, that was all new, and it it hurt like a but
What?
yeah, but yeah, I did it. I mean,
Yeah.
I had I think I had 8 or 9 spinal taps, which, man, that hurt and was scary because you just think of where that needle's going, the size of the needle, and
Just the word kind of gets
and it's like what's going on back there. But you buck up and you do it. I just did whatever was necessary to get it done. So I think it taught me a lot about myself, that I can do it. I want to go do that. I'm going to go do that.
And I don't think that it's a secret that you don't even do the same job that you did prior to. Like your life changed. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, I love the job that I had. I had a really good job in ergonomics, working for provincial government. But I saw an opportunity to start a publication that showcased all of the good things in our community, because I thought they were being overlooked. I mean, we're sitting in the Cancer Center here, and the people that I met here pictures on the wall. I can still see them being honored for the great work that they've done. Taught me a lot about the bigger picture in our community, not just maybe the facet of work that I did and how amazing Windsor and Essex County is. Everyone's always giving back and contributing and going out of their way. I mean, I own Snapped Windsor. It's a franchise. There's a lot of them, but nobody touches Windsor in the number of events, community events, fundraising events. I don't know if there's another community that has a gala circuit. I swear to God, it's a thing in Windsor. I don't think it's a thing anywhere else that I've found in the 70 plus other snaps that exist. And you know, that's a crazy thing, but it's a sign of how giving and caring our community is. And I think I started Snap just to showcase that. We have a great community.
Do you think that you would have taken that leap and changed your career? No. So
no,
Why
absolutely not.
Why not? Or how did this help?
Well, I guess I really looked at what was going to make me happiest and how I could make the community better. I started out in like pre-university trying to find, or a direction towards a career that I could help people. And I found that through ergonomics and, study and design of work and making work, ensuring that work wouldn't hurt people and helping workers that were hurt, get on with their lives or help them get what they deserve, so to speak. So the Snap is kind of an extension of that in showcasing all the positive rather than like a news source, which, tends to, show the negative story or, it's news, but I'm not going to talk about that news. I'm just going to talk about all the good things.
You were talking about the strengths and kids. Does it bring out certain strengths that you didn't know? You go through this experience, you're going to discover things.
Yeah.
There's no way you can't.
Yeah.
And the support of everybody around you helps you talk about it and figure it out. I even started fundraising my first chemo treatment. I think it's in my nature. I mean, it's in my nature from my mother and my grandparents and all the work that they've done in the fundraising nonprofit charity world. So it was only natural that I started. I did a T-shirt campaign. I guess a silly thing, but I think we raised $10,000, and actually that's what helped build one of the groups that helped build the library here.
Well, you're known as the owner of Snap Magazine, but I think equally for the work that you do in the community as well. So thank you for all of that. A little bit of love here from the people on Facebook right now. A comment from Karen. She says, so many people you're helping tonight, Jeff. Thank you. Jeff is a great role model for having a positive attitude.
That was probably from my wife. Or my mom.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of love out there. I got a comment from your mom. It's coming later. This has helped so much. Thank you once again, Donna Mack. The Cancer Center has been an integral part of my healing. Thank you for continuing to provide services for those that have been affected. From Santina, and she says, namaste.
The people here are amazing. Absolutely amazing. Make you feel at home. They take care of you. My first treatment, I was put in a bed by Maggie, who retired a couple weeks ago. She's pictured
she's
right
looking
there.
At us up
I
there,
still remember her. I cry every time I see her and I hug her, but she put me in the bed that was closest to her, and I'm watching you. You're going to be here, and she just took care of me. My first treatment, and it was a tough one, but I felt safe, I guess. I felt I was being taken care of.
But we do hear that a lot, and you do have to be kind of a special person to work here. But I was really nervous the first time that I came in here, and I came in here as a working assignment, not even as a patient. But you notice something right away when you walk into the Cancer Center. There's a calming feeling in here. Get the fireplace on when you walk in, the piano, but the people here really do make a difference.
And I think the other thing that the Cancer Center does is it partners, because actually the group that we actually ran upstairs, myself and one of the social workers from Cancer Center. So there was a partnership between us. that carries on.
For this kind of discussion,
Yep.
which is as important as the clinical aspect of it. A question, I don't know if you can answer this, Steve, maybe. What kind of resources are there in the city that you would recommend for kids when their parents are diagnosed with cancer? That's a question from Karen. Thanks, Karen.
Two, actually, I know the Cancer Center has social workers that are right here on site, so if the parent is receiving treatment, they can come in with them. Social workers here would be able to see them. Hospice also. Again, we see people right from the point of diagnosis. And we have 2 social workers that are trained to work with children specifically. We have a whole children's programs. Matter of fact, many of our programs in our wellness center are for kids to attend that both they can talk about, but they can also do activities that have nothing to do other than be with other kids who may or may not talk about it. So it's a diversion that they can be part of. So, and the libraries are huge in terms of that. So verbal and nonverbal talking.
And we'll post the links for those on this after the program today in case you want more information on that. A comment from Marjorie. Marjorie, thanks for joining the conversation. She says, it helps a lot, but fear is always there, which I think you've heard that.
It is. And from my experiences, it's just gotten less and less. For me, though.
Yeah, probably good to hear, I guess, for somebody who may be.
I've talked to a lot of people, and a good friend of mine may be watching actually, that recently went through, we'll call it her cancer journey. It was one of her questions to me was like, are you still afraid? Like, because I'm kind of scared shitless. Well, it does get better. Like, and that was all I could really tell her. You know,
it's normal.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of fear, I think, in everything, but yeah, it does get better. It honestly does.
A comment from David. David says, spent 4 months at the Cancer Center. Tremendous amount of care and compassion provided. Thank God for those nurses. Okay, thumbs up for the nurses. We've heard that a few times, and absolutely.
Yep.
A comment from Dave. Jeff is our Windsor Cancer Research Group Ambassador of Hope. Thanks for all you do. So what is that?
The Ambassador of Hope, that was an award I was given 2 weeks ago as, I guess, a public person that's advocating for cancer and cancer research in our community. Actually, the coolest part of that was that my oncologist gave it to me. Which, like anything in life, I don't like. That's way up there. The person that saves your life gives you an award for being an ambassador of work that she does, right? I can't even put it into more words. It was awesome.
The partnerships and the connections and the.
Yep.
What else is important for us to cover tonight?
Whoa.
I'm throwing it out there, but
I would say if I would, don't be afraid to talk to somebody. Don't bottle it up. I actually did. I went through the Canadian Cancer Society and I did the peer support training to talk a little bit about. What the training was about, talking to people going through something similar that you went through. So I've spoken with maybe 10 or so people that were in similar situations as me. So similar age, going through similar experience, kids, life, work, all that thing. And a lot of the questions they had, I was able to answer. But I'd still direct them to somebody that was maybe more professional, like a personal support worker or maybe a psychologist, psychiatrist, or something along those lines, somebody professional to speak to. Don't write it off as something that is not for you. Maybe just try it, because I never thought it would be something that was for me, but I got a lot out of it.
I would add to that, and don't stop. Don't stop the first time. If you don't find the right person, keep looking.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
And know that
I didn't. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And it doesn't necessarily work the first time, but it doesn't mean that there's not somebody out there for you. Because we have a lot of volunteers that will work with people. It can be a professional, but it doesn't have to be. The person that's going to support you can be next door neighbor. You're not in it alone, I think would be the biggest thing.
And that's what we try to do with this webcast here, is to kind of open up those doors of communication. And, you know, you might be at home right now, you're not ready to get out there and talk about it, but you can at least be part of the conversation or watch. So if you think that there's somebody who could benefit from this, please share this with them and keep the conversation going that way. I have a comment from Jeanette. She says, I've done this journey alone, 49 surgeries with my 14-year-old son. The home hospice nurses pretty much become your friends and family. So I think that that's definitely a shout out to the nurses.
And I think it's also, to me, a shout out to what she's doing internally. In terms of being alone, she's also supporting herself and her son. And hears that she has let some people in, which is good.
Yeah, thank you. That's very brave. A comment, thank you to Snapped Windsor for always showcasing our local cancer researchers. That's a comment from Dora. Here's from Peter. Peter says, you scheduled this at the exact same time as the Stanley Cup game. I'm sorry, guys, I didn't even know.
I don't want to know the score.
Las Vegas Knights?
I don't want to know the score being taped.
What were you thinking? Actually, it was...
We'll let you in. It's true.
This is more important.
Yes.
Thank you, Peter, for multitasking tonight, because obviously you are here with us, at least for part of this. And if you have any questions, please send them, because now I feel like I've got to get these guys out of here. No. So another comment from Jeanette. Jeanette says, hospice is amazing, so another thumbs up to hospice.
Yeah, I hope people really realize the strength of hospice in our community. I know that a lot of people have a misperception of what hospice is. I think hospice tagline, I think, is from diagnosis to bereavement. We've spoken about the library. I've been to the library. It's massive. There's wonderful people that work in there and can help direct you to what you need, and resources beyond what are in that library. But beyond the library and the services that they offer, I can't remember how many programs, but it's over 40 programs. 48 programs that can support the community in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be somebody that is on their deathbed. It can be somebody that was just diagnosed, pre-diagnosed. They can help provide guidance. They have shuttle services for people that have to get treatment. They have meal programs.
It's doing great.
This is good.
This is good.
I mean, and I'm touching the surface. Anyone that knows of somebody or that's going through something, they really should take a look at the services that hospice provides, and don't be afraid to use them, because hospice has that stigma that it's for where you go to die, and it's not true. Not true. It's not true.
The last time I was there was a band out there and a party going on. There was definitely a lot of life happening at the hospice village. And a comment again, Steve, appreciate all you do. You have helped so many. This comment here is from Deletta, Jeff's wife. She sent this earlier, actually, and I believe she's now watching the hockey game. So.
She's at our daughter's dance recital, which is actually more important than the hockey game.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Well, I'll add Diletta's voice in here. She says, Jeff, remind people how you are feeling remind people to talk about how you're feeling with your caregiver. And she says, total honesty, don't try to spare their feelings or reduce stress. It is best to know how the patient feels.
And I mentioned that earlier, and she made me promise, or we promised each other, that we would communicate about kind of how I felt. If I needed to go to bed, I went to bed. If I didn't want to talk, then I didn't want to talk, and I could go for a walk or whatever. But again, that reverts back to, I think I didn't realize maybe how much of a brunt she was taking. So very grateful to you, and I love you.
Thumbs up. Was it difficult to get to that point of complete honesty?
No, I went into that mode of, and this was kind of our motto, is like beyond the attitude and everything. It was everything possible to ensure that I survived, like whatever it took. So I think the doctor mentioned once that because I was in a weakened state after my chemo treatment, that I shouldn't be, being exposed to too many different vegetables and fresh flowers and all that stuff at the grocery store. So I didn't go to the grocery store. I just stayed away from that. I made sure that I wasn't in public spaces for long periods of time after my chemo treatments because my my counts were down so low. And so we may have went to the extreme, but if somebody wanted to come visit, you call ahead and we'll talk about what you potentially were exposed to that day. Like if you got little kids that go to school, no, sorry, you're not coming over. So, we did a lot of things maybe to a little bit extreme, but they weren't extreme. It was everything possible.
Good boundaries.
So, I just went into that mode of whatever it takes. We're going to make sure this gets done.
I think we're getting toward the end of the webcast, but I can hear our producers writing over here, so I know that there's a little bit more coming. Is it a long one? No, here we go. This one's a comment. This is from Priya. We do have an excellent team of social workers at the Cancer Center who are very experienced and able to support not only our patients, but their families and caregivers. They can offer a whole bunch of support. And I think that we've mentioned that we've had some of the social workers on here and they do offer some great advice. Absolutely. But I think that it is maybe not the first thing you think about, like you said, when you come into the Cancer Center. But
and everyone's different. I'm going to tell you, going through my journey, the resources that I accessed was everything from a woman at the registration desk and her happy smiling face and, hey, Jeff, I don't know how she knew everyone's name, the support workers, the Canadian Cancer Society volunteers that were here smiling, putting out cookies and directing where to go. And I talked with obviously physicians and nurses and the pharmacists and then the oncologist nurses. So many different people, and even outside of that was particular websites and hospice and Canadian Cancer Society and utilizing things through the Windsor Community Cancer Center Foundation and various other organizations to learn and educate myself and other people about kind of what goes on and what support is out there and what we can do better at.
I think we've come to the end of our questions.
Sure.
I know that if there's anything that we've missed, because I see a lot going on there, we'll take a look and maybe can answer any questions that we have missed during this. One comment that I wanted to end on is, this is from Tal Daniela. This is more important than hockey. Thank you for that.
I don't know. I know it's Tal and Daniela Zudner, and I'm going to say that they're watching the hockey game while they're watching this.
We got two going on. That's all right.
You guys are awesome. Don't text me the score.
Who are you rooting for?
Who am I rooting for?
Don't say.
Vegas, but that wouldn't mind seeing Ovechkin win.
Win-win.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much again for
welcome.
sharing with us tonight and being here tonight and missing the hockey game and the dance recital. And thanks to all of you for being with us and sharing your stories as well. We will be back next month for the final webcast of the season. Next month, we're going to have a couple familiar faces from the Cancer Center on, and we're going to talk about the physician-patient relationship. So join us for that, the third Wednesday in June. In the meantime, have a good night and go Vegas.
Oh, Vegas. Oh, Vegas.